It's time for Physician Family Finances, the show where physician moms and dads like you can get the answers and encouragement you need to turn a good earned income into great life outcomes for tomorrow and today.
Hello, physician moms and dads. I'm Nate Reineke, certified financial planner and primary advisor.
And I'm Chelsea Jones, also a certified financial planner and primary advisor here at Physician Family Financial Advisors.
Chelsea, we're back. First of all, you and I are together again. I think summer's dying down, even though it's still midsummer. But I think we got some vacations out of the way. You just went to Disneyland.
I did.
Or was it Disneyland?
World.
Disney World. I don't know. I never know the difference. I'm just show up vacation. How did it go?
It was a lot of fun. My daughter was not afraid of any of the characters this time.
Yeah.
She didn't know what to make of them the first time, but now every time she saw one, she ran up and gave them a hug. So that was really sweet. But yeah, there's nothing like the Disney magic with when you go with your children.
Yes. Yeah, we were talking about that a little bit. I've been to now the Disney in Hawaii. I've been to Disneyland, and there's just no denying it. I used to be a Disney denier, but there is no denying it. It's just the best, and kids love it. Okay, well, we have been asking for a friend. We have 4 questions, a couple of them listener questions, which I'm excited about. And we can't forget questions that we're getting from clients every day too. So we'll jump right in.
All right. So we're asking for a friend question. So Nate, what do you mean when you say that the stock market is expensive?
Yeah, I actually got this question, and I have, sometimes we say things and it feels like it's not industry jargon, but it just doesn't make a lot of sense. So it's not necessarily industry jargon to say that, but like, what does that actually mean? Yeah. And for any new listeners out there, Chelsea, Kyle, and I here, we don't try to time the market. We're not trying to pick individual stocks. We're not trying to say when the market's going to go up or down, but that doesn't mean you can't take a real, honest look at the stock market at any given point. And this is the one thing that at least I look at. It's how expensive is the market. And that's not to say you shouldn't invest or you should invest. It's just to say if you have extra money or you're trying to decide, should I pay off this high interest mortgage or invest? It's one thing to look at amongst many. So what does that mean? Well, when you are buying a stock, think of it as you're just buying a tiny little part of a business, of a company, of something that earns money. Right? Because that's why you would buy a business. It's very, so let's use the lemonade stand example since it's asking for a friend. If you had a legitimate investment opportunity and the neighbor down the street came up to you and said, I want you to invest in my lemonade stand. And you weren't trying to be nice. You wanted to actually get a return on your investment. They said, I want $100. Okay. But then of course you should ask, as a savvy business investor, well, how much do you make? Right. And if that lemonade stand makes a profit of $1 a day, it's going to take you 100 days to get your money back, assuming they continue to work every day. But what if they made a profit of $1 a year? Then it would take you 100 years to get your money back. A lifetime, right? And so that would be a bad investment. Now, how long it takes to get your money back is, I don't know what your threshold for a good investment, bad investment is, but that would be an expensive business to buy. It'd be really expensive to buy a lemonade stand that only made $1 a day and you wouldn't get money back for 100 years. That's just one metric to look at this. Again, like, what's the money for and what's the goal and all that. But let's say the opposite is true, where they do make $1 a day and they work every day, 7 days a week. you're going to triple your investment in a year, a little bit more than that. So that would be cheap. It'd be cheap to buy that business. I'll give you $100 and get $365 back this year. Totally passive income. This is just like the stock market. The difference is it's very difficult to know if the stock market's cheap or expensive because you don't know every little company that's in it because you haven't looked under the hood ever, maybe, to see like which businesses are cheap, which ones are expensive. So you can just look. There's a bunch of charts. We like charts. You look at the charts and you just say, like, how much money do these companies actually earn? And compare that to how much money are they selling for? And the company's not actually selling, but the market, you and I, everybody else, is determining how much they're willing to pay. And right now, the market, for whatever reason, continues to buy and is willing to pay a lot for a very long expected payback period, meaning the companies that you're buying, it would take them a long time based on how much they're earning today to get your money back or to get a good return on your investment. So market being expensive just means that for the amount of money these companies actually make, which is why you buy into businesses, they're charging a lot. And again, like, we won't get down too much into the weeds. The companies aren't actually charging anything. It's just what the price is for them right now. So if the market's really expensive and you have a high interest mortgage, you should keep doing your saving, because I've been saying the market's expensive for years. And it has been, at least historically speaking, looking at what the price used to be versus how much money they made in the past. It's really expensive right now. But since I've been saying that for years, if you would have taken that advice and taken all your money out of your investments 5 years ago, you would have missed out on a whole bunch of gains, a whole bunch of returns. So we don't know when the market goes up, when the market goes down. But if you can compare two things to each other and you can say, well, I'm doing all the saving I need for retirement, I'm doing all the saving I need for college, I have extra money. Should I pile more money into the market, or should I pay off my mortgage? That's at 6.5%. And that's when you will find me saying this or comparing this. It's when you can actually compare two things. So yeah, market being expensive is just, it costs a lot to invest right now.
Yeah. And on the flip side, if there's a big drop in the market, you might hear us say, you can get those stocks. You can get cheap stocks.
Yeah,
because
cheap
their
stocks.
price
Yeah.
is relatively inexpensive compared to what it used to be.
Yeah.
Because, capital market theory says everything's going to revert to the mean, right?
Yeah.
So
which essentially means
up and up and up.
Yeah, and revert to the mean, like since we're in the spirit of asking for a friend, revert to the mean is just eventually there is sort of what you might call the appropriate price for all of this. Like, you should be able to get your money back in a reasonable amount of time. You should get a reasonable rate of return based on not what the market thinks, but just how much money companies make. And so the reason the market's expensive right now, one of the reasons, is they're looking at potential. Potential is always factored into the stock market. Just because an AI company isn't making a lot of money today, essentially the people out there, the public, are making a bet. They're saying, I do think AI is going to be a thing, and I do think they are going to make money someday. So they're banking on the potential of some of these companies. And if that makes you uncomfortable, then stocks probably aren't for you, right? I mean, if you only want to invest in steady Eddie things, there are some stocks for you, but it's not AI companies. The hard part about that is that risk is what makes you money, because AI probably is here to stay, and it probably will make money someday. So it's not worth trying to time the market. You're not going to be any good at it. But that doesn't mean you can't make some good decisions with your extra money.
Yeah.
Or I guess risk adjusted decisions.
Yeah. And we never recommended buying individual stocks anyway. So just putting money in AI is not something we would ever recommend. But when you buy a broad index fund, you're going to get pieces of AI. And so you're not going to miss out on all of the gain if there's a gain to have an AI.
Yeah.
Because we
And
recommend you buy into everything in the appropriate amounts.
yeah. An AI semiconductor business, I mean, they're all over the map right now. If you're watching the news, you'd think that your portfolio is like going sky high and then hitting the floor. But if you are in a broad-based index fund, you have international stocks, you have really small companies, not quite lemonade stand small, but small. And those have done really well this year. And the market, even though from the news may look like it's all over the place, it's kind of been steadily up this year.
Yeah.
So you don't have to worry about this the longer your time horizon is. And the shorter your time, the closer you are to retirement or college, the less and less you probably should be exposed to all of that. And you'll have a good amount of money in things that do not go sharply up and down, like AI stocks, and you'll have time for that to, as you said, to kind of revert to the mean, go up and down. So stock market being expensive is not a reason to make some drastic move. It's just a good reason to make some risk adjusted choices when you have extra money.
Yeah. Just a thing to consider so you make informed decisions.
That's right. Okay.
So our first question that we have is a listener question that someone sent in. So thank you for sending this in, whoever sent it. So they said, I've been listening to your podcast for some time now, and it's been very helpful. I want to ask about the new 530A account, which, if you are not familiar, that's also been called the Trump account.
Mm-hmm.
I'm currently funding a 529 account and a UTMA for my 5-year-old, and I'm considering opening the new 530A account and funding the maximum $5,000 per year until she turns 18. My understanding is that I put in post-tax dollars. Then if I plan to convert the whole amount to Roth when my child is in her early 20s, the money will be taxed again. Does the double taxation make this account worth it? Thank you for your time.
Yeah.
So,
what do you think?
Well, first of all, there's not actually double taxation. So when you make post-tax contributions to this 530A account or any account, that builds what's called basis, which basis it just means money that you've already paid taxes on. So if you are able to convert, when your child turns 18 or at some point after, you wouldn't be taxed on your basis. So on your $5,000 per year that you put in after tax, it would just be the growth that's taxed as regular income. So I just want to make that clear that there's not actually double taxation. But is the account worth it? This question is, I don't know, it's kind of tricky.
It is tricky.
If the law stays the same and you are able to, once this transitions to effectively a traditional IRA, if the law still allows you to convert that money to Roth when your child is in her early 20s and, possibly in a very low tax bracket, if she's not, whether or not she's a dependent might affect that, a dependent of you still. But if you're able to convert that money at a really low rate, then I would say that it's worth it. But it's unclear whether or not that law will be the law at the point, because these accounts are so new. Not everything is ironed out. There's still kind of some muddy water in terms of the legislation and what the rules truly are for this account. But yeah, you are using post-tax dollars, and if once the account turns into a traditional IRA after the child turns 18, if the law changes and you can't convert, then all of that growth is just going to be taxed at regular income when it comes out. And if that's the case, the UTMA would have been better, because the money comes out and the growth is taxed at capital gains rates. And then the 529, depending on what the money is being used for, if we're doing apples to apples with a 529, if this money is intended for college, it's not better than a 529 for college. There's just no question about it.
Yeah. To me, this you have to do a lot of make a lot of assumptions about how this would work out in order for it to work out.
Yeah.
So it could. I mean, it certainly could. It's not. And again, this is like, if your goal is for your 18-year-old to have a whole bunch of cash when they turn 18, and you're okay with not having any control over what happens with that money, this is one way to save money for them. We are not in, we don't see a lot of scenarios where it makes a ton of sense to have money in UTMA accounts, to have money in these Trump accounts, because it requires quite a bit of saving just to pay for college. And so I can tell you, just from clients who have a whole bunch of student loans, it's one thing if their parents were to give them, $50,000. It's a whole nother thing for them to just graduate with no loans. Like, if they're not tied down to loans, that is just as big of a gift, if not more, than having cash, because young kids, I mean, they're just not good money managers yet. Most people aren't at 18 or 25, sometimes 30. So are they actually going to convert this money over to a Roth? I mean, it's their money. You can't make them, and I just see some kind of landmines that could potentially arise. And it's always hard for me to see parents who have saved well for their children, and then either they and actually given them cash, and then it turns out where they have to force their child to do what their plans were for what is now their money. So it's like makes for an awkward, like, Thanksgiving conversation.
Yeah.
Or they have to talk about money constantly. Like, they have to talk about money in a way that your child's just not really prepared for. Like, to talk about a Roth conversion to a child over just like spending less than you make, they're not really prepared to do it. But in theory, let's say you had a Nate Reineke in your house who just gobbled this stuff up at 18 years old and was willing to do whatever it took to like do the right thing. Or I'm sure you're the same, Chelsea. I mean, like, if you told me, hey, this is what this is for, you can convert at a really low tax rate. And hey, by the way, Nate, if you do this really cool thing, I might even be willing to gift you the money to pay the taxes to convert it. Right? I would have done it. And that would be awesome. Right? Like, to have, I mean, at that point, I mean, it could be at least tens of thousands of dollars, if not $100,000 over into your Roth IRA.
$5,000 a year for the next 13 years. So that's 65,000.
Yeah.
In just basis.
In basis. And with all that growth, I mean, I think it would be great. But the more important thing is to look at what the goal is for the money. So UTMA, what's the goal? You want your child who's not good at managing money to have a bunch of cash? Then create an UTMA. If you want, same thing with the Trump account. But if you want control over the money, not to say that you need to control your child, but just at that age, if you make a kind of prudent decision to say, like, they're not going to be good money managers, but I still want to help them, 529 is great. And you can, and right now you can convert, if you have extra money in a 529, you can convert 35,000 of it into a Roth at some point. So to me, that there's a lot of like mileage you can get out of a 529. But if your goal is flexibility, like, let's say when you believe the time is right, because you're a good money manager, obviously you have an UTMA, you have a Trump account, you have a 529, like, you're a good money manager. And let's say you wanted flexibility for, well, what if they want to start a business? I keep hearing this. What if my child wants to start a business? What if they want to buy a house? What if they want to do these things? Well, a more tax efficient way to do this would be to invest in your own brokerage account and strategically gift them appreciated securities when they're of age.
Yeah. That's an option that I've talked about with a handful of clients, and they're always like, wow, I didn't know you could do that. Yeah, you can transfer shares. If you're gifting your child money out of your taxable account, you don't have to sell the
Yeah.
positions.
And you
You can just
still get
transfer
a
them
tax
straight.
benefit there,
Mhm.
similar to kind of the ones we're talking about here, which is the whole point of putting money in a Trump account is when they pull the money out, theoretically, they won't be making a doctor's salary. So
Mhm.
they'll have a lower tax bracket. Well, the same goes for
The same
capital
works.
gains. You
Yep.
move the money over. Let's say you give them $100,000 and your basis was 50. They're going to pay the gains on the 50, but at a lower rate because they didn't make
Whatever
less
their
money,
rate is.
whatever their
Yeah.
rate is. So I just it's really difficult for me to see why you would choose a Trump account other than you would have to strategically give the money. So it wouldn't truly
Mhm.
be theirs. Like maybe so that you don't go over the gift tax limit, which is a whole nother conversation, but it's not really a big
Mhm.
deal. You just gift them the max for a few years until the money's out. And that to me is almost better rather than $100,000 dropping in your account on day one for a child. Instead, maybe you get $20,000 a year for 5 years. That's a better way to teach them how to manage that gift. So
Yeah.
I don't believe at this moment, at least I haven't run across a scenario where the Trump account really does anything. It's like a cool idea that I can't quite, I want it to work for people because I like that it's triggering these thoughts about preparing for your child's
Mhm.
future. But again, I mean, there's no reason to create complexity in more accounts for no reason. I mean,
Yeah.
why?
Yeah.
529, if it gets fully funded, start investing in a brokerage account. If you have the unfortunate scenario of your child being really bad with money or not making good decisions in life, it doesn't just become theirs, but you can
Right.
have all the intentions in the world and plan to just gift them money later on for a house.
And I could see a situation where the Trump account would work out in somebody's favor, but all the stars have to align.
Yeah,
Like the
they
money
really
has to
do.
be for their retirement. They have to be responsible and actually convert it to a Roth. If Congress doesn't change the law, and that's still a thing by the time they
Hmm.
turn 18. Um, and then they have to keep the money in there. It's really tempting for young adults when they see a balance in an account to just take it out, even though there's all kinds of taxes and penalties that would be owed if they took the money out of the IRA.
Yeah.
Um,
Now, if you're willing to take that risk, like, okay, the stars don't align, my child pulls it out and, goes to Vegas. Like, well, they would have done that. If they're making those decisions, they could have done it with any gift you give them. But if
mm,
if if you're willing to take that risk in return for the risk that maybe there's going to be $100,000 in a Roth account and it's going to grow for
yeah.
60 years, and
Yeah.
that is totally acceptable. I mean, if that's the risk you want to take.
Hmm.
The reason it generally doesn't work out is I have yet to see someone that severely overfunds their 529.
Yeah.
So they might just need the money for college.
Yeah. College is
So
expensive. It's hard
yeah,
enough to fund that because Trump account should be funded once college is funded. It's
yeah,
not one or the other. So,
agreed.
okay. The next question comes from a surgeon up in Maine. They said, we're considering private school for our kids. The tuition would be 30,000 a year. How do we know if it's a financial mistake or a fair trade-off?
Well, the way this question is asked um, makes it seem like, and this happens all the time. As a physician, you have a great income, so you could quote unquote afford it, but that's not really the barometer for if you should do it. It's like you could afford to throw $100 bill out the window every time you drove to work, but why would you? So that's the question. It's like, is this a prudent decision? And it's really hard question because every child is different. Every child has different needs. But the bigger one that I've seen is every parent has different standards. So if you are a parent who has high standards for education, which you're a physician, so I would imagine you could be, then that's a decision that is personal, and it's really if you're on track for college, you're on track for the whole thing. If you're saving enough money, you have plenty of cash, and that is something you value, is a very high uh, level of education, even in middle school and high school, then sure, it's a fair trade-off. If that school is actually substantially better than, let's say, a public school. But, something that my mind goes to trade-offs in, like, beyond that, if we just set that aside and say purely financial, what most people are really deciding in these cities is, should I move to a more expensive neighborhood to get into a great public school, or should I stay in my current neighborhood and pay for private school? And that is a more interesting financial question to me, like an actual trade-off, set aside kind of your wants and wishes in your own life, which you should never do. But if that's kind of the direction I'll go here. And the interesting part about that is the houses are more expensive in part because the public schools are better, which tells you have a more valuable asset. So in a world where you would say everything is the same, one is just public, one is just private, meaning like you're the same distance from work, you don't have to change jobs when you move, all that stuff. It's all fine. You're just 10 miles away or something from one house to the other. Clients need your attention. That's what that is.
I know.
I think it is an interesting idea to say, well, we're buying a more valuable asset. And if you have $30,000 a year and you're making this trade-off, well, would a house cost more than $30,000 a year in a better neighborhood? And if it's like, well, actually a better house would only cost an extra $2,000 a year rather than $2,500, or $2,000 a month rather than $2,500, you're buying a better asset that will hold its value better, will grow more inside of a great neighborhood with a great public school. And you essentially get to put that $30,000 towards an asset instead of a private school. Yeah. So every decision's different. Sometimes this isn't a real comparison. Sometimes it's like there is no good public school. And if that's the case, then, I imagine someone asking this question should go to private. But if it's not, and that's a true trade-off, then I kind of prefer a cool house in a cool neighborhood that's going to like grow in value versus just going to private school.
Yeah, that's interesting. Because until we had talked about this before and you kind of explained it that way, I had never thought about it that way.
So it's neither did I until I can't remember which family it was, but one family would just like laid it out for me. I'm like, this is oftentimes the choice. The neighborhoods in here in Portland area, the neighborhoods that are more expensive have nicer schools. And I'm like, oh, that's why. And then naturally, more affluent families move to that neighborhood, build up the neighborhood, spend more money on their houses. Therefore, it's more expensive. So it's just kind of like they're going to support that ecosystem a little bit more on the housing front.
Yeah. Okay. The next question comes from a psychiatrist in Oregon. They said, my spouse wants to go part-time or stop working to be home with our kids. How do we actually stress test that decision instead of just guessing?
Okay. Again, because this is coming from someone who really values if someone can stay home and they want to stay home, it's like worth more than money to me. But the stress test is, I like the way they're asking. It's not like, is it worth it? Well, you're never going to get me to say that saving an extra $1,000 a month is worth you not staying home if you can afford to stay home. But the stress test, I think this is the way to think about it. This would be, how much does your spouse make? So let's just imagine after taxes and everything, your spouse brings home $5,000 a month. And that's a pretty good income because after that might be a six-figure income if they're paying for insurance. So then bring home $5,000 a month. And the question in your mind, you're thinking we would lose $5,000 a month. But there are things that you pay for.
Allow your spouse to work.
Exactly. And so the things that come to mind, the big one is childcare. I don't know about you, Chelsea, but childcare in my house is very expensive. it's at least, I mean, in the lean months, it's like $2,000 a month. And my kids are in elementary school. So it was a lot more than that when they weren't in elementary school. In summer months, it's probably $1,000 more than that every month. So let's just say $2,500 a month goes toward childcare. And so you're not losing 5,000. You're at this point, you're only losing 2,500.
That's
right?
Assuming they only have 2 kids.
Yeah, assuming they only have 2 kids. You might pay someone to clean the house, and maybe you'll want to continue to do that, right? So who knows? But you think about all the things that you were doing with this income, and you kind of net those out. If at the end of the day, between a nanny, between someone cleaning the house, the difference in health insurance costs, like if your spouse has a great health insurance coverage, then you might have to go the opposite direction where their benefits package is bigger than just the take-home pay that they have. And you just look at that and you say, okay, we would actually lose out on $2,000 a month. And so now let's see if we can make all our savings goals and spend an amount we're comfortable with off of that reduced income. So what you can do, and this is great advice for your kids too. If your kids say, hey, I want to get a car payment when they're like 20, and you say, how much is the car payment going to be? They say it's $500 a month, which is a cheap car nowadays. Then you say, why don't you spend 6 months saving $500 a month and see if you can actually do it? And in 6 months from now, if you have $3,000 in your bank account and life is good, I guess you can kind of afford it. Spoiler alert, they're not going to be able to do it.
Yeah.
Right, for the child. But you probably could. So you see what the difference is, and you set aside $2,000 a month, and 6 months later, if that was easy, then you know you can afford it. So I have done this many times with many things in life. I've done this with mortgages. I've done this with cars. I've done, like, even things that just like our bills are going to go up by this much if we do this thing. Let's set aside that money first and see like how uncomfortable it would be. And if it's comfortable and you still value the thing 6 months later, go for it. If it's very uncomfortable, then you have a decision to make. Right? So the answer is save the difference. How you get there takes some budgeting, but it's probably a good exercise if your income's going down to do a stress test on your budget.
Yeah, which that's really smart, because when you're saving the difference and you don't actually go through with it, it's easy to just not go through with it instead of having to back up the decision and spouse go back to work and all of that.
And the cool thing is, at the end of that exercise, you have an extra $10,000.
Exactly.
Because you saved it. So this is a baby fund thing too. And you're having a baby and you're like, maybe I should go part-time. Well, the act of saving for that baby fund is going to help you build the muscles that requires you to reduce your income. So you have a baby fund, 1, and 2, you're acting like you're working less because you're saving more. I think we got one left.
Yep. Our last question is another listener question from a family medicine doc down in Texas. They said, I'm 40 years old. I make $250,000 and have about $600,000 saved. Everyone online says I'm behind. Am I?
This is one of my kind of pet peeves about these kind of forums. And the honest kind of take on this is stop asking this question online. Online, like there's some great forums. They don't know you. So if you had the ability to give them all the information that they would need in order to make an honest assessment of your situation, you wouldn't have to ask this question. Because what would you need? They would need to know, how aggressive have you been on your mortgage? How much student loans did you have? Did you pay them all off? They'd have to know, what were you invested in?
Now?
How much are you saving now? What are your goals? And by the time you were good enough to give all that information, you would just have the answer. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to take a little bit of a different approach on this, but I'm curious to hear before I kind of tell you what I think. What do you think? Like, limited information, obviously, but what's your kind of gut reaction on this?
Gut reaction of, are they actually behind?
Yeah.
It's hard for me to give a gut reaction. I'm not really a gut person when it comes to this kind of stuff.
Makes you a good planner. Yeah. Well, okay. But I'll give you mine then. The quick look at this is, first of all, you're probably on a physician forum, and $250,000 is on the lower end of physician incomes. Mm-hmm. And so you may sit there thinking like, I make less, so I'm behind because all the other physicians I know in their 40s have $1 million. Well,
they spend more.
They spend more because they make more. Yeah. So that's not a bad thing. What that means is you need less, mm-hmm. right? So the easiest math in my head is just to say, well, if you were investing consistently from the time you were 32 to 40 and you have $600,000, how much were you saving? Well, they're saving probably 20% of their income and save. Yeah, pretty good chunk. And I think the average physician family, this is even families who spend more in retirement, might spend $10,000 or $11,000 a month. And so really simple, investment calculator math says that Social Security plus $600,000 saved, plus you continue to save until you're 65, you will have enough money to spend $11,000 a month. Mm-hmm. Now, do you want to retire at 65? Like, if you want to retire at 60, maybe you need to save a bit more. But there's a chance that you paid off your mortgage in this time. We don't know. Mm-hmm. You need a legitimate plan, but the idea that somebody could look at this and say you're behind is just wrong. Like,
I saw this and I saw age 40 and I was like, okay, so you've been probably in attending for maybe a decade.
Mm-hmm.
And you have 600,000 saved? No, it's not bad.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's also like you've had good market returns. So maybe you're saving a little less than 20%. But this is about the time where most physicians, they can really ramp up their savings too, because student loans might be gone. Kids are older. You're not paying those childcare bills anymore. And maybe you need to save a bit more. But I don't think you're necessarily way behind or way ahead. You need a legitimate plan that tells you, according to what the outcomes you're looking to achieve in your financial life, what they are, and that will tell you. But I will say this, just as a point of encouragement: the quick, back of the napkin math here, I don't think you're way behind. Just judging by how much you make, therefore how much you could even spend before going negative. And the fact that you have $600,000, I mean, there's a lot of, I have a lot of family that's in, maybe they're in their 40, they don't have much money saved at all. So, and by the way, maybe they work for the VA and they have a pension.
Yeah.
We just don't know. But keep saving. 20% of your income is a great place to start. And if you are worried about this, you just need a plan. You need a plan, and that will get you, solid answers to this. Because whether or not I say here that you're ahead or behind, or they say you're ahead or behind online, you won't know and you won't feel comfortable and stop thinking about this until you have a solid plan in place. Okay, these were really good questions this week. I encourage everybody I know I asked this on the last episode too. If you're a listener and you've never sent us a question, please send it in. We will make sure we answer it no matter if it's on the show or by email. But I want to thank everybody for listening. If you liked this episode, you can subscribe anywhere you listen to podcasts so you don't miss any. You can send your questions to podcast@physicianfamily.com. And if you would like to work with us to get a plan, you can visit physicianfamily.com to schedule an interview. Until next time, remember, you're not just making a living, you're making a life.
Are you ready to turn worries about taxes and investing into a plan for college and retirement? If you're evaluating your options and want to learn more, visit physicianfamily.com and click Get Started. Or you can ask a question of your own by emailing podcast@physicianfamily.com. See marketing disclosures at physicianfamily.com/disclosures.